But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello and welcome to the 73rd episode of World Blockchain Roundtable. We got a full house today. Our hosts are going to be Joe, founder and architect of Dragon Chain, Greg from Rivet, Lisa Mighty Davis, owner of the new Mighty Layer over on Den.Social, so check that out. Sneaking my own plug there. Keith Waring, international race car driver, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, software builder, and YouTube personality, is joining us today as a host. Satoshi Sean is back, entrepreneur and everyone's friend. We're glad to have you back, sir. Thank you for joining us. Ross, also back, I think, will be joining us from Global Crypto Press today. And I am Distant, or Dave, the master of ceremonies for the episode, and you'll see me hopping around talking about Den.Social basically all the time. So let's get a quick update. Every week, as you may know, we distribute layer ownership tokens based on the views that the last episode got. So this week, each host from last week will receive 133 lot. So we had a first-time host, John Branch, on last week, so he gets to be a new owner of the layer, and I think that means he gets to post in the World Blockchain Roundtable layer too. Each topic contributor will receive 22 lot. Last week's theme was wrong answers only, nominated by our friend Greg here. Great topic.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was the first Bizarro episode that we've done. So I was glad to have John on that one to help us with that aspect.
It's pretty weird.
So you'll get 22 lot for
read like the most normie show that you possibly could have ever seen.
Yeah. So these ownership tokens that I'm talking about, they come with perpetual passive income, free edits in the layer, and governance votes. So you get to direct the show. That's the idea. The more you participate, the more that you get to say what we talk about and how this thing goes. We have speaking of governance, we have a World Blockchain Roundtable DAO suggestion for November. Every month we have basically a call for suggestions. What topics should we paint these weekly episodes with? And so go in there, reply to that post that's in the layers, probably the most recent post. And what's going to happen is people will evaluate those replies, they'll vote on them, and the top several that rise to the top get selected to go into an official vote where you can then use those tokens I was just talking about to direct traffic. Let us know what you want us to talk about. So go check that out, go do it, and give us some topics for November. Get your themes in by the 19th. Right? Is that right? Yeah. Themes in by November 19th. Probably October 19th. It's November now. That'd be a little bit late. Anyway, get them in there. The theme, let's see, of the week is spooky blockchain stories. I nominated this one. And to be honest, I wasn't sure where it was going to go at first. Spooky blockchain stories. What does that even mean? It means it's October, and I thought Halloween's cool. Maybe I'll do a costume this year. Let's talk about spooky stuff. But we got some pretty good replies in. I put one in this week. I don't usually throw one in there myself, but I wanted to make sure we talked about that particular topic. So that's where we are today, the scary side of blockchain. And with that, let's go into current events. We do that for about a half an hour and then roll into the topics.
We are the scary side of blockchain.
Yeah. So current event. We were meeting up a little bit before the show and started to talk a little bit about some of them already. I don't know if you guys want to continue that conversation here as the current events segment, or if anybody has anything you want to go off the cuff with. Ross, I know that I have changed my default what do you call it? The homepage for my browser to your news outlet. So I'm thinking maybe
Awesome. Thank you.
You're probably finger on the pulse on current events and maybe some ideas for us.
Yeah, and I'm just going to mention too, we just a couple days ago finalized a partnership with Binance. Our content will be carried on the Binance news section as well, which is pretty insane. Really juiced about that.
Congrats.
The big story we're covering right now is how the European Union is kind of out of nowhere presenting this rough draft of comprehensive crypto regulation, where everyone was kind of imagining this for years, that when the U.S. would get around to it, everyone would just kind of follow suit. It seems like the Biden administration gave the European Union this really kind of scare. They don't think that they're capable of understanding the technology. They see that it's a highly senior citizen leaning administration and that probably doesn't understand the technology, and they think that it'd be better if the U.S. was to follow their lead, and you literally use those words. So
I look forward to reading that.
I don't disagree.
It's the headline right now, globalcryptopress.com. The one thing that we got to realize, though, is that, I mean, imagine how hard it is to get two political parties in just our country to agree on something.
Yep.
European Union has to get 27 governments to pass a law that will apply to all of those countries, So it's really easy for them to, and so it's really easy for them to get like a good head start on us. And even with that head start, we can catch up because they are just, I mean, you think we're politically slow. They're,
it's going to be
you want to know, want to know that that's going to lead to is those that already have the greased skids are going to get their way on it. I mean, the banks are going to dictate what those regs are. They're all going to be financially focused. They're not going to be
they're actually not that unreasonable so far.
Solution.
They actually have a like a committee that is focused on digital currencies, and it's mainly made up of like industry people. So it's
don't get me wrong.
Which
industry people? But don't get me wrong.
Where it's really bad.
I think they're better than in the U.S. Right? Which you have the same situation in both, but
Maybe.
they are well ahead. They are much more forward thinking. I think they have a lot less maybe weight from the banks, which might or might not be surprising, but for some reason they are looking at it better than we are. But it's still,
bankers have found a way to cash in on it.
They're still committing the fallacy
as they were before.
It's first a financial system, though.
If they control it.
What they're doing here in the U.S., the banks have arranged it pretty much where it's going to look like they are going to be kind of the only ones allowed to do large scale custody. So automatically, the more people have crypto, the more they're profiting. And I mean, we're a long ways away from, a situation where people are never converting their crypto back to fiat, Yeah. I just dropped my headphones.
Well, Keith is actually in Europe.
It's true. I'm a European.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, just recently, a like whatever the big like U.S. banking association is, actually sent a memo out to all the banks in the U.S. and it was advising them to find partnerships with crypto companies because the banks that had done it so far had found it highly profitable. So I don't know if we really have that enemy anymore.
That's why
it is the enemy, because they're only doing it so that there's a middleman between us and us holding our assets.
Co-opted.
To track us.
Well, and they may genuinely believe that the average person is too stupid to custody their own money. I think they may actually.
And right now, exchanges are serving that exact same role, though.
Yep.
Right now, Coinbase or any U.S. exchange that would have to respond to a subpoena is serving that exact same role. So it's just more of the same, really.
Hey, fun fact that's related to that.
Fiat and crypto, I think one of the things that at least I have kind of not thought about or overlooked is just greed when it comes to the evil banksters. And the fact that can be actually be used against them, and also their hubris. Like whoever, I think it was Ross or someone mentioned that they just think people are stupid, but people are waking up. I mean, love crypto.com or hate crypto.com. You can't get away from everything that they're doing. Formula One. Right. There's only like so many Formula One tracks in the world, And my kids told me that there's one in Austin, which is weird because it's like,
the Austin track is a weird track.
That's awesome though. It is very cool. In fact, there's a race there.
It was cooler in the 80s.
But they're building one in Miami, and it's it's crypto. It's the Crypto.com Formula One racetrack. They bought the Staples Center. It's everywhere. People that don't know anything about crypto, like, know Crypto.com. It's very odd. But
Crypto.com definitely made some bull market sponsorship deals. Like, they cannot be standing by the decision.
Kind of a hat tip to those guys. I mean, they were at all the conferences all the way through trying to get their thing off the ground. Like, they built this from the ground up. So I actually have a lot of respect for those guys. I mean, I've met them before. I tried to talk them into using Rivet once upon a time before we were really ready for their level of traffic. And they were cool about it. Like, so I have a lot of respect for them, actually, weirdly enough.
I had I remember having a similar opinion at first about PayPal's adoption, quote unquote, adoption of cryptocurrencies, right? Because at the time I was struggling with getting merchants to, like, hey, can you just accept this stuff, see how it goes? Just like local mom and pop shop, stuff like that. And most people use some version of, like, smartphone or tablet based point of sale. And, like, all of them had a PayPal account. Every music festival I go to, somebody's got PayPal as an option to pay them and that kind of thing. So I was like, heck yeah, exposure, people can easily accept it. Maybe they don't use it directly. Maybe they don't use it the right way. Maybe they're still going through a middleman, but there's some sort of exposure to it. But as we recently found out, like, that's dangerous too. Just putting it in the hands of a central entity, like kind of what we were already talking about here, is, like, it's theirs to do, whatever that private entity wants to do with your money.
Well,
fine you for buying.
But they don't make money on the money. They make money on the fees. And that's where they're trapping your assets in their system. And then you don't have control of it. They don't care if number go up or number go down, because that's not where they make their money.
Is it actually, could it be a good thing though, that, like, people start onboarding to crypto through a centralized app thing?
Well, absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. No.
The last part of that real quick.
Not. Dangerous.
And then the app flexes and shows people that
crypto is to not be using fucking banks.
Exactly.
What the fuck is everybody doing? Like, we're all giving fucking money to fucking Binance and all these fucking guys. Like, that is not the purpose.
I was going to go there.
Bitcoin. If you've got fucking 10 Bitcoin, you're a billionaire, right? That's end of story. You've got a billion fucking Satoshis, right? Okay, just wait until the day that you need it. I mean, all this stuff about regulation and all that is absolute bullshit. I mean, we just had this massive fucking thing come out on Twitter today, right? About all these fucking lies, about mainstream narratives, about all the COVID bullshit, right? And you see all these people talking about shit again, and they're all weighing in, getting involved in the same fucking debate that they had last time. And here we are in crypto after fucking 11 years, still talking about the same thing. We want to remove the middleman, and then we're like, please, Mr. Middleman, come and help me.
Right.
I mean, the question is,
it's trashing the fucking industry, man.
Is that pain educational though? That was kind of where I was going. Is that pain educational?
But everybody used against us. It will consistently be used against us. In fact, I think that's part of the plan. That's why Facebook wanted to have a crypto, so that all of the grandmas could be in the crypto whenever the hell happens, and they all lose all their money, and crypto forever gets that black eye, and there's no way to go against the media narrative of it. You have to be careful. And the problem is that the crypto Twitter goes head first as soon as, like, oh my God, there's this adoption. That means number go up. And that's why those idiots do it. They don't give a shit about the actual philosophy and the actual meaning or the actual use of the technology. They just give a shit about, number go up.
Right. Well, I think
some traditional banking firm is going to be, a traditional bank is going to be the starting point for virtually everybody, though. So, I mean, you kind of have to have them. Becoming
you say that, but you're still talking in terms of investment, If you're not talking about investment, if you're talking about use of crypto, then it's not necessary. Yeah, you'll have a point of conversion, but it's kind of like switching over to Linux. You always have that crutch of the Windows secondary install to go to, but once you leap over and just forget about the dollar on the other side, you're good. It's a while away.
People can get their paycheck in crypto. That's when that's solved.
I think it's kind of what I said about banks using their greed against them. It's that way with people in crypto. 100%. If you're focused on adoption equals I make more money, then you get in bed with the devil, which is what
Celsius and Luna and
that's what we're doing. And then we can rationalize it. I rationalize it. That there's going to be banks and there's going to be this and they're not going to go away 100%, and we're going to have people are going to want those custody options because there are people who are too stupid to handle their own money. There are people who desire and love and want to have somebody hold their hand and control their shit,
or too scared. Maybe not too stupid. Maybe too scared to be responsible for themselves.
There is.
Yeah, I think that's probably more.
There is both. But
I think people need to.
I don't know. I mean, you think about it. People aren't.
People be too stupid though. Like
I do think about it.
Like they can buy their own food every day. They stay alive.
But to be the devil's advocate, if we went full on 100% just crypto, it would take so much longer. But then again, it might not even happen because it would take so long for us to build that infrastructure.
It would have more staying power, I believe.
I think the problem,
you would have
honestly,
you have to be able to get there first. You'd have to get there to be able to stay. And if it takes so long and people don't know about it, we don't have the adoption for when the crash comes. That number one, or the banks could just shut it down. If it's so slow, if we didn't have the explosion of crypto.com, if we didn't have these big booms of adoption because of number go up, I know you guys hate it. I'm the only proponent of it, but if we didn't have those, we wouldn't be moving fast enough, I think, to be able to defend against the FUD, to be able to defend against.
I still think it's a half-assed weak way to push it because
you're completely right.
I mean, you get more interest, but it's all for the wrong reasons, which is going to lead to disinterest for all the wrong reasons. People are always going to say, "Oh, with that Luna thing happened. Oh, but that Celsius thing happened." It's over and over again, and.
In every major movement, there's always an incrementalist approach and a revolutionary approach. And
I mean, but that Enron thing happened. That Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac thing happened too.
Right. Oh yeah. I just think that once we get to a place where we have literally machines people can build and put on the internet that no human being ever has to touch again, that's going to be really the slide point.
But also, just in the United States, we've kicked.
We still don't have that. We still don't have a decentralized web. Nobody can run an application. Nobody can run a thing without touching it still.
We have very good
lessons.
beginning
Three times
we do have very
central banks out, and 4 times they've come back and we've let them in. And honestly, the last time is because people were too stupid, not scared. The United States of America, the people and its citizens were too stupid, and they let the central banks back in. They used the most basic.
Or were they too stupid or too targeted by the early version of the
we were all like, no banks. We hate you bankers. You guys are evil. We know we're on to you. Everything was nope. And then they just said, oh, we don't want this bill passed. We don't like this. We don't want that. Well, then we do. And we literally brought them back in because of that.
You're saying we got rid of the Fed at some point in our history?
We got rid of what?
Multiple times, yeah.
We tried 3 times right on the third iteration.
Yeah, Jefferson versus Hamilton. Yeah.
I mean, that was more fighting to prevent it from starting, though, right? The Fed wasn't there, and then we got rid of them, and they killed it, right?
They had Jackson 2 central banks in the past, right? That also opened and failed.
Yeah.
Like they had to shutter them.
Interesting.
It was interesting to see the response, just globally, the response of just as recently as the 2008, that kind of thing. We briefly were talking before the show about Iceland and how they're the only nation that decided to make their bankers do some jail time over what they did. And everybody else was just like, well, fuck us, I guess. Welcome back.
Here's some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, the coming collapse is going to be the real test, because I think some people were woken by that. Some people have been frustrated with a lot of the odd things going on with justice. So when this next collapse happens, we'll see, right? Do we still have a Fed after? Do we still have an IRS after? How does it pan out?
And that's kind of why I'm not really a prepper myself, but that's kind of why I'm here. That's kind of why I think we are generally here, is like, okay, obviously this is not sustainable. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And are we going to be ready for it when that happens? Are we going to have some sort of,
are they going to have a chance to launch the dystopian
infrastructure
before we get there?
Are we going to have a lifeboat?
Dystopian nanny state launches first, man. Then we're all screwed.
So I think that question about the lifeboat's a really valid thing, and also the other question earlier about the fact we don't have our own decentralized web yet. I mean, that's got to be like the next step, right? That's the biggest thing that's getting in the way. I mean, we've had so many failed projects in the crypto space that have kind of highlighted this. You had like Substratum back in like 2017 trying to do a decentralized web, absolute scam. Skycoin, don't know what the fuck that was all about. Helium now trying to build a decentralized web. I think the focus really is, until we've got our own web, this technology is fucking useless, right? It's absolutely useless in terms of using it daily. I mean, like, I've had some real horror. You want to hear fucking horror stories, right? I've just bought fucking 2 acres of land, right? Okay, next door to my house, right? And I was selling, I think it was like 4.5 Bitcoins or something like that at $40,000 per Bitcoin, right? And I was using local Bitcoins. And this was on the Thursday, right? The lunar crash was the Friday, right? And I got hit with a message, right, from the guy at local Bitcoins, or the seller on local Bitcoins. He was like, "Hey, dude, it's $250,000. We need, or it was 200 grand." And he was like, "Look, we really need some proof of KYC. Where did you get the funds from?" And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I've got all of that, but it's all in Spanish because I live in Spain." So I send over like a shitload of documents. So God knows where this information is going.
Oh
right?
yeah,
this is like my private information. Dude? I send this off. And he goes, "Oh yeah, my bank in Lithuania have turned it down, but there's another one that are going to respond on Monday." By the time Monday rolled around, it was like 26k Bitcoin, right? So then I had to sell something like 7 Bitcoins just to buy the land next door. And I'm sat there thinking, I really need the land because it has like a water deposit. I've just put my own water in. I'm putting my own solar in. The reason my garage is a mess is because the world is fucking burning, and I want to make sure that I'm okay, right? And I had nothing but like barriers and obstructions, and all of those barriers and obstructions are what, in the name of adoption? It's ridiculous. We've got Ethereum that we could literally put land registry deeds on the Ethereum blockchain if you wanted to. Instead, we're trading fucking pictures of monkeys, right? But I get it. I get that we need to test the technology first, right? But we have it's a long road, man, but like, realistically speaking, like, all this middleman stuff, it really needs to go away, right? And everything is happening right now as well. Like, I mean, the world's fucked right now. Like, in terms of like the political structure, there was literally nothing good going on. There's literally nothing good going on. And
then also, to be the bayonet at the business end of the fucking dystopia state.
But just think about like the value of Bitcoin for a second, right? Who the fuck determines the value of a Bitcoin, right? Just think about it. You could say, oh, it's the market, right? But we know that the market makers, after a massive marketing push every fucking 4 years after the fucking halving, they sit there and they have the market makers pushing the market backwards and forwards, chopping people up, getting them, rinsing them from all of their Bitcoin, right? And we agree, we somehow accept the fact that 1 Bitcoin is worth this amount. Okay, and this is totally wrong. This is totally wrong, because money doesn't work. Money with an attached value doesn't fucking work. We can see that with everything that's going on. So right now,
well, they didn't price in inflation, did they?
it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. Like, we're talking about a decentralized technology, and then we're talking about like a centralized pricing structure for it, right? That's just not right. It should come down to supply and fucking demand, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to be growing my own like avocados and mangoes and shit. Yeah, but sometimes I might want a lettuce, right? If somebody doesn't want to swap a mango for some lettuce, I want to say, hey, have a Satoshi. Do you know what I mean? Boom, job done. No regulation, no nothing, no nothing, because I want to be ungovernable, right? And all this regulation, all it's doing is it's inviting people into what could have been one of the most amazing, most beautiful inventions on the planet, right? That is Bitcoin, right? And I would say that we've already fucked it. Okay, we've already completely fucked it, because when you look at the political structure, you look at the wealth structure in the world, right? We all know the central banks they control the wealth because they control the pot, right? Bitcoin wealth is no different. We've just created the same level of inequality. Yeah, the same level of inequality, where they're championing it, going, yeah, this is great. And I'm starting to think lately, it's really not so great, because we're going to create that imbalance.
I think there's a really good solid point in there, because I mean, how long has the Bitcoin ETF been a thing that even people who hold a lot of Bitcoin try to create?
Yeah.
Like, why would we want that? It would just anchor the dollar.
Yeah, 21 Bitcoins, million Bitcoins isn't enough. Let's have an ETF so we can print paper ones too.
That's one of the most frustrating things about watching this and being part of history, is everything that's wrong. You have to say, we did that. We built that. I always say with Tether and anything that bad that happens, we built that central banking system. We set all this up. You can't blame them.
I wouldn't say that, Sean. We accepted it, and I think I've not used stable coins much, right? I've always been really scared to hold them very long.
I hated them though, but
well, I mean, it's just one of those things though that we've accepted it.
Yeah,
I mean, we definitely didn't build it. I think you identify with the bad guys a lot more than I would like to. So
I think what somebody said that for evil to triumph, good men just must do nothing. So by accepting it, we did it, man. And we're all, at the beginning of this. We all have so much more responsibility than anyone else. Someone 20 years from now, they will not have attention to responsibility.
Yeah, it's not as easy to point to somebody who came before and say those guys, they set us up poorly.
Yeah, we can't say that.
Well, yeah. Can I say though? I mean, I don't accept stablecoin. I don't use it. I don't want to use it. I would prefer if Bitcoin were priced literally in ammo or gold only, right? It's like, I know how much gold's worth.
75% of transactions involve a stablecoin. 75% of transactions involve.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. That's the sickness. Yes, I think all of crypto is kind of lost its way, and I'd almost rather be outside of this anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I remember the pricing, the centralized pricing. As I experienced it was local Bitcoins also. I think it was a starting point for negotiations. Like the first time that I bought some over the counter at a coffee shop from local Bitcoins, I went in with the idea of, here's how much it costs, so here's how much money I'm going to pay for. It was like $300 and something, like $300 a Bitcoin or whatever. And but the guy wanted more than that, and I looked at my computer or whatever and was like, yeah, but the price is this, and he was like, I mean, the price is what I'm going to
as a premium,
that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe there's usefulness for as
that's
the
same thing. That's it. I remember
by the time you've cashed it out, you've lost 10-11% by the time it actually hits a bank. You know what I mean? Like if you're using it that way.
It's the same as trying to sell precious metal. So you're not going to get the price that's quoted in the New York Times, right? So that's the way it is.
That would be interesting to call the Bitcoin price.
That's how OTC
the spot price, and then you go into, it's like, oh, this coffee shop is $1 over spot Bitcoin, and you have set it up that way. That'd be interesting.
Keith said something about like helium and decentralized web and infrastructure and stuff like that. That's something I'm super into, and I wanted to make a point that and just see how you guys feel about it.
I got one on this too after you, Dave.
Okay, so whenever I was I was in the Navy for a long time, and we dealt with a lot of like top secret networks that the government built out. And it's interesting, the decisions that were made in those networks, they were against adversarial, against opponents, right? They want to make sure that it was robust and people couldn't see into it, and all these decisions. And there were options. You could build your own, or you could take this existing civilian infrastructure called the internet, and you could build on top of that. And that's the route that they went. And back then, the type of cryptographic capabilities that the government had, and the ability to afford that sort of infrastructure being built out, was definitely, you had to be a nation state to afford to even build that system. But today, we kind of have the ability to do that really cheaply and inexpensively. So is it just as good to not? So like helium has a what do they call it, like long phi or something, right? It's like low and slow
Radio wave. Yeah.
Decentralized infrastructure where everybody puts up their own broadcast station, and it still goes through the web, but it doesn't have to over time. Is it just as good to use cryptography as a second layer, kind of like the government's own secret internet that's built on top of the civilian internet? Is it just as good to have an encrypted second layer that does rely on a centralized internet service that can be shut off, but is maybe resilient enough to route around it, that kind of thing? Is it okay? Or do we need to just build literally our own hardware infrastructure from the ground up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like a proof of work internet is absolutely what is needed. You know, if we're all like making an effort to put up the network, and that we're all perpetually being rewarded fairly in a cryptographic token, not necessarily Bitcoin, you know, but we create that, we take the actual idea and go, right, okay, this was really good, but not given the fact that, you know, for a start, like, what is it, 5% of the internet is the internet as we know it, and like 95% of the internet is the dark web, that the vast majority of people on the planet don't even know how to access. And I think that's where this needs to go, because, you know, like, there is a way of turning off the civilian internet, you know, or restricting access. You know, there is a way to do that. Okay, we can all get to a certain point in a certain level of society, and then I think it's like 4 nation states can decide, yeah, we're going to pull the plug on this. You know, and when you look at, say, Bitcoin, for example, you know, as long as one solitary node is running, as long as there's one full node running, that is still going. You know, you can't kill Bitcoin. The same can't be said about the internet just yet. So there definitely needs to be more conversations about it, and I think there are
a lot of ways that you can get around it too. Like, you can make local mesh networks using, you know, simple stuff that you can mount on the top of apartment buildings. Like, it doesn't actually take that much to run your own splinter net.
And there's a handful
because the IP
that kind of stuff,
you know, like the packet switching system at the core of the internet is an open source protocol. It works just like Bitcoin in that respect. So it doesn't take much to run it. It's cheap to run. The code is open. People don't know how to go out and grab it and set it up.
We are seeing some interesting projects that are doing stuff like, in, you know, we're countries that shut off the internet and demonstrate that they can. You're seeing it adopted there, where you have, maybe there's no internet infrastructure, but you've got friends and you tend to visit your friends, and so there's projects today where you can cache messaging data for people, and then eventually it makes its way through the grapevine and ends up at its destination, even if there's no infrastructure, just in a sort of asynchronous kind of ad hoc situation. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Resiliency, even if it's slow, this is what I think is, like, people are really, you know, convenience versus security, or convenience versus resiliency. It's, if you're willing to, like, have low bandwidth, there's a lot of options there for you. But if your primary concern is being able to watch this show, maybe it won't support that side of, you know, kind of like Netflix, you know, we got to have the internet capability of high definition video streaming, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, and something else to note, there are plenty of
years ago when the internet was new, and you know, everybody got AOL discs everywhere, and everything that they got. You know, you take a crap, look at the toilet. Oh my God, I crapped, you know, 2 AOL discs. But video streaming wasn't there at all. I remember it was, I think, the Sci-Fi Channel on their website,
Information Network. Yeah,
they had like clips or something, and they were like in real time, and it was just the most magical thing. I was like, oh my God, imagine if you didn't have to watch on your TV, and you could, you know, and this is free. You know, websites are free. It was just so mind-blowing to think that one day we could be there, you know, with our, I think I had like a 28.8 baud, you know, modem at the time. So,
and it worked, and it was useful, and it was awesome, and there's no reason we can't, like, shit's cheap today. You know, I think Keith's maybe selling me on it. Things are so cheap today, for now anyway, that like, it's way less daunting to build out, even if it's slow. stuff that just it works.
But
it has information. and
You
stuff
always you always have to consider though, because like say for security, Bitcoin provided proof of work, which is very interesting, and everyone knows that to become more efficient, people are centralizing the effort, right? That you have massive warehouses mining Bitcoin, meaning it's easier to kill, and people don't think about it hasn't been destroyed yet. So, and if you're talking about an information network, communications network versus Bitcoin, any of these things you have to be careful about, because if we tell everyone it's not breakable because it's decentralized, there are things that all of these cryptographic algorithms are likely compromised. All the standards there are likely known by nation state actors holes, right? There's also there are a lot of attack vectors that if I can take down the power for 3 of those big warehouses, now all I have to do is throw in what I have unlimited central bank money. I can basically take over that chain. I can totally at least destroy its. You
can get them to accept the bad uncle as the next branch of the network,
right?
For example.
So
like how they did those attacks on Ethereum Classic.
And that not the brand name. Oh, it is Bitcoin or anything like that, or it has the right ticker. None of that shit matters. What matters is the tech. That if you look at some of there are other answers to a lot of these things, some of which proven, some of which aren't. The people should be trying and using to help get those things tested. You think about the privacy coins, and you think about a lot of the other things that people are doing. That's where all of the value is happening right now. But
well, one of the cool things I wanted to mention is, and there's a little bit of blowing my own horn because this is what Rivet's working on right now. We are going to build truly decentralized infrastructure that can self-power itself. Like, as in, people can pay for their own infrastructure using an automated process that their application collects fees from. So you can have an app that runs when you use it and pays for its own infrastructure as it goes.
Nice.
Good. And it'll be a decentralized thing that will
that's
be
interesting.
under the control of Rivet. It'll be under the control of a DAO.
So you're deploying a thing that can host itself.
We have the technology built basically to do this, to do a decentralized marketplace and infrastructure. And then all we need are people to run what we need to build next, which is an updated version of Rivet that lets you join the marketplace automatically.
I'll ask you a quick question, and maybe more appropriate offline, but still, if we wanted to use Den on it, what would be the required? You
would run your own Rivet node, or your own. I guess we'd call it a Cardinal node, Cardinal cluster, and flip the flag that says "Join the marketplace."
Okay, nice.
Something that I wanted to bring up, which me and Lisa talked about this on our show on Tuesday. If you're not watching me and Lisa's show, Truth Tuesdays, you should do that. Half the show's on her channel and half's on mine.
I should say we're a year and a half from that, by the way.
So Keith said something. He said he wants to be ungovernable. And I have really, really wanted to do that over the past year or so and have looked into it. I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'm probably going to leave y'all and go to the next world. But, it's not that hard. You get yourself a little bit of land. You don't even need that much. And you homestead. I've looked at all these videos on digging your own well. Not hard at all. You just need a sledgehammer and some pipe. But and how it usually works, you buy yourself your land, you own that land. At least in the United States, you can do what you want on that land. Especially if it's outside of the city, which cities are weird, then they have their weird laws that they can just make crap up. But I watched this channel, and it's called Doug and Stacy or something. But this guy, just him and his wife left the city 10 years ago. They bought 11 acres, built a log cabin, no electricity, they collect rainwater. And now they're 100% self-sufficient. And his videos were how to grow vegetables or how to be, self-sufficient or set up a homestead, which is just cool. And it was, fun to watch. And it's 100% political now because of how messed up the world is. And he did a video on this new thing that's coming out, where I don't know if y'all have heard about the USDA wants everyone to register their gardens.
No, I have not heard of that.
I saw that.
Right.
I saw that.
It's like they want your
personal
kids to be FAA licensed to fly remote control helicopters.
to create a centralized database, basically. It's like a gun registry, but it's for food. And I said this, I don't know if y'all remember, like months and months ago, that they were going to come after like the people outside of town who have chickens and they sell eggs, or the people, and they did, because prices were going up so much in the supermarket. People were going and buying, but then they put out these scare of avian bird flu, and you couldn't buy the people couldn't sell eggs because it was against the law.
The fucking biosecurity state, man.
My cousin,
they're going to come in and they're going to cull all the pork, and they're basically say, "Oh, you have."
My cousin has like 20 chickens, and she doesn't eat the eggs anymore. I was like, dude, it's you know better than that. She goes, no, we don't know now, so we just throw away all the eggs.
Oh my god!
I get eggs from my neighbor. We're in the middle of the city, and my neighbor has some chickens. We take care of them sometimes when she's out, and it produces too much for her, so we get them. She just puts them in our mailbox sometimes. It's awesome. And what you're talking about is kind of like,
because they're like, I'm not eating Aunt Janie's eggs. That's gross. We want eggs from professional egg people.
It's pretty. At least in the U.S., it's pretty doable. Like,
there's this registration now for your gardens. This isn't the crazy thing. This isn't the psychotic thing. So I'm sure y'all heard about the smart thermostats, where people
the disaster that is the smart thermostat.
Yeah, they control.
I've been talking about this for years too. People thought it was crazy.
They control your thermostat. These people they called it not a climate emergency, it was a temperature emergency. Locked everyone. They couldn't get air conditioning. They locked everyone at 90 degrees so they lost control because of the centralization.
Yeah. The worst part about that is, Sean, is the smart grid, or the grid construct they've created. They call that a virtual power plant. They assemble a virtual power plant based on how much capacity they can save by forcing people to a certain temperature.
Here's what's coming now. Wow. There are so people are going around. There's a couple states, but if you have you live out in the country, if you have water on your property, they come and they want to install a free smart monitor on your well, anything that you're pulling water out, because we just need to know how much water you're taking.
Yeah, I don't know.
Out of water.
That's going to go over not so well in some places, and I don't know. We'll see what that goes.
Shut off your well that you paid for
if you're not paying attention. Because the thing is, like in my town, they were putting in the smart meters, and we got the notification, and we told them F off, and they said, fine, then we have to fine you or charge you, because now a human has to come out and read your meter. So we pay an extra whatever every month, but we don't have a smart meter on our house.
It's an arms race. It's sort of an arms race.
Don't pay attention.
Back and forth.
Just the way that they just demonetized our channels, Sean, yours and mine. It doesn't show up on the YouTube dashboard. We got an email through the back office that says, "Oh, by the way, your Google AdSense account was canceled."
The middleman shut it down.
This is a great segue into the topic, because we're talking about like centralization of the technology the technology that should save us.
Yeah.
Could also be dangerous.
Oh, you mean this guy that's supposed to be looking out for us?
Right. For example, one of the many people who are looking out for us is
not supposed to look out for us. He's a vampire.
Yeah, trying to use money.
Nosferatu.
Right.
You have to admit that guy looks exactly like Nosferatu, the old from the black and white, movie. Just like
so. Right now, the situation that Sean's talking about, the situation that Lisa's talking about, that's something that people are going to want to fight back against. Some people are going to think it's a great idea. They're going to love it. Like,
most people will just take it. It's probably dangerous.
But the majority of people, like I'm from, Sean, you're talking about you getting out of the city. I kind of came into the city. I started out of the city, growing up, hunting, fishing, growing a garden, that kind of thing, and evolved into a city boy, I guess. But I know that type of person, because I part of me is that kind of person, and I'm from there. They're not gonna comply. They're just not gonna do it. They're gonna say no. And then the local government's going to say, okay, well, we're going to fine you. And they're going to say, no, you're not, fuck you. And then they're going to say, okay, well, we're going to shut off your bank account. And they're going to say, okay, well, I'll just use cash. This is exactly what happens. And then one of the things that we're inventing today with blockchain and cryptocurrency is the ability to leverage even further into cash, right? Because before you could just have a cash economy locally in your small town, and you spend it at an auto parts store and you spend it at the farmer's market. But if you don't have cash anymore, the first question, this is from me because I just wanted to make sure that it was brought up, but what happens when you apply this sort of thing to something like a social credit score and a CBDC? You combine that and then you enforce no cash to where you have to use this digital system, and it becomes really easy to control what people are allowed to spend.
But Dave, especially you, the big gingivitis outbreak really changed my outlook on a lot of things, because you talk about your way of thinking, the lens that you look through of your childhood, and I don't think people in general are like that anymore. I think we've seen the massive compliance at idiocy that everybody went through. People aren't as tough as they used to be. People don't stand up as much as they used to. I remember those fond days too, when somebody would do something wrong and everyone would demand action, and they would get action.
Well, now, I don't think it's any different though, Sean.
The memes out and it goes away.
I still know.
I don't think it's any different. 1913, we weren't alive. Somehow the Fed and the IRS were created, right? That wasn't because, people were the same back then. It's like, oh, I'm not in pain. This doesn't hurt me. I'm scared. Oh, they've told me this is for the best. Okay. And it passes, and and a lot of people didn't know about it. And there's a lot of other things, and that's exactly what happens now. But the difference now is we have the internet, and so half the stuff that most of us on here right now read is not the direct mainstream media. So now they have to push conspiracy theories, and you can't talk about XYZ on the channel or else YouTube will demonetize or block. So yeah,
I still know those people, and it's still that way today. My dad, up until the day he died, was like, fuck it, I'm just going to use cash then, that kind of thing. And all my family still lives there. The neighbors still have that mentality, and they do fine, within their local, I wouldn't say fine. They could be doing a lot better. There's a lot of people against them, but they do it, and they have that mentality. So they haven't lost it. And I think part of it is probably because they don't have access to easy access to like broadband internet everywhere. They're still on dial-up, and they don't watch the internet happen, right? And so they have a lot of personal interactions with people, and their information networks are still very much analog. So I think that there's a lot of communities in the U.S., especially the rural areas, are still like that. People still have that mentality. I think, from my experience, I've seen a lot of the kids leave and move into the city, or move into something that's got better internet and that kind of thing. It's definitely a mentality that I used to have. I joined the Navy to get out of the small town that didn't have anywhere to go, that kind of thing, right? But the communities are still there, and that's going to be the hardest ones to leverage, like centralized information control.
Oh, it will be the hardest one. I wanted to ask you something about the Navy, because I'm really disgusted by the U.S. military recently. Just I can understand that the way that it's going, but I don't know if you all heard about the ship where they pumped a bunch of jet fuel into the water supply, like a lot. And first they lied and said it was a leak, and then they anyway. Long story short, they were doing kind of like the gingivitis thing. The doctors on the ship were not allowing soldiers to say that they were sick from the water. They would put down with something else. They covered up like a bunch. They're brass, covered up a bunch of stuff. And I don't know if you know how the military works. If it's not in your medical service records, you can't get help for it when you're out. because it was not in the line of duty. So by them doing that, they're hurting their soldiers. There's in the
That's why the Camp Lejeune thing's coming out now.
the military command is just it doesn't.
What was the question about that?
Did you
Because
hear
I
about
do have experience with that kind of stuff.
Huh?
I do have experience with like I don't know, the fuckery and the chain of command and the requirements and regulations. So what was the question?
Do you think that there's this like I can't imagine that happening on the like your local command level. I can see, when you get up to the brass and more political stuff, but not like the ship's captain or that on that level to screw his men over like that. To me, it seems like a big change. And I've grew up in the military my whole life.
The only thing that I can say definitively that might relate to that, just from my personal experience, is one of the things that sort of disillusioned me with the Navy. One of the reasons I ended up leaving was there's a really big focus on career advancement, as if it's a Fortune 500 company or something like that, right? There's a really big focus on what do things look like on paper, so that my eval looks good, right, to the upper chain of command and that kind of thing. And that starts with basically like first, second class petty officer, and it goes all the way up through the commanding officer. We would go, some of the decisions that would piss me off the most were based purely on someone's desire to look good to their boss so that they got advanced in their pay grade or they got a promotion or something like that. It had nothing to do with the warfighting capabilities. It had nothing to do with, is this the right decision for the military to be making, and that kind of thing. So I think that
because in a bureaucracy, it's not performance or production
it's very possible
in favor of one's bosses.
It is very possible that commanding officers will do things to the detriment of their command because they want to look good to their boss, to the admiral, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think they used to be so much more honorable than that. Like more honorable.
I agree. And don't get me wrong. I've met a lot of people, and I know a lot of people that are they're full of integrity and honor, and they're fantastic human beings. And they belong in the military, and they have a strategic mind, and we need them.
Nobody belongs in the military, mate. No one. Okay.
Some of them do. Let me tell you.
Seriously, man. The military is fucking poison, mate. We shouldn't be going bombing people under any circumstance. You shouldn't be working towards a nation that wants to assert that sort of dominance, man.
That's fair.
It's a really bad thing. It's something that should not exist on this planet at all.
Their mindset is something that that works specifically. Okay,
it's just a fantasy, though. I mean, it shouldn't exist, but it's a necessary evil. I mean, thank God America existed when this guy Hitler was around, because he was about to win, dude. So I mean, you can't say just
for national defense. I believe there are some people that are wired a certain way that
exist, and we wish they didn't.
I remember when I was a little kid, and I was looking at our it was the symbol of the eagle with. And my mother was she had a doctorate in theology. She was an intellectual and a theologian, and I knew what that represented. And then there was the arrows in the other hand, and I was like, "What is it? Why does the eagle have?" And she goes, "Oh, well, this is peace, and this is I was like, "Well, these are weapons." She goes, "Yeah, because it's like peace through." Weapons, and I was like, "That's dumb." I was like 4 or 5, and I said, "That's ridiculous."
Way to take it is it's a treadmill we need to get off.
My mom explained to me why we were so different, why the United States was so different, that why we're so revolutionary, that we, for all of humankind, all of time, we were conquerors. We would go fight these people. We would take their land. We would take their people. If we won, we would grow and we'd take it. We're conquerors. In the United States, we would, even if we go to war, even if we aren't, if somebody attacks us, we will, even if we win, we give back. We don't take their land. We don't take their people. It was this revolutionary way of thinking that we have all the strength and we don't use it for evil. And just, I mean, that way of thinking, I think is really
Well,
we
it
don't set
evaporates.
ourselves apart anymore.
I want to bring
It
us back onto the topic and the flow of the questions and stuff. And relating to military,
that doesn't have resources we want.
The question
relating
is,
to the military,
can it exist
relating
without
to
evaporating, or is that a natural progression of its existence? I think is the right question there.
So this is something that's relevant to the question. Talking about decentralized web and talking about weaponizing blockchain against the people and that kind of thing, and deciding what information is allowed to be distributed on that network. We had until, and this is something you might have heard me clacking away on my keyboard over here trying to figure out what just happened. But as soon as I went into the topic and I said the words CBDC and social credit score, literally like that, we went from over 300 viewers to 4 or 5. Just
wow.
And I'm like, the fuck was that? Right?
So do you think that they really cut people off, or do you think they just are showing that your views are only 4?
Here's what I think. I think they're
algorithm, so it doesn't get out there.
I think there's an issue that comes from how great AI has become. So you have closed captioning that's generated automatically. That closed captioning goes through an algorithm, decides what's allowed to be
right.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's being cut off as much as it's being
counting.
It's not being offered as something you might watch based on your interests.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So anybody who's
even alone
might happen to fall into the conversation where previously that might show up as a recommended thing. And this is minimum. Now maybe it's a lot worse. Maybe it's shut off. Maybe there's a switch. But at a minimum, it's deciding what's allowed to be showed people, even if it falls into your area of interest, something that you might be interested in watching, which is what it's supposed to be for.
Yeah, they're not going to showcase
at minimum, it stops showing up there because, we don't want people to really talk about that.
Yeah, actually, if somebody's having difficulty connecting to the show, please reply to us somehow. Come on, Den, and say something.
No, you know that, isn't it? We've had it on here before. We've even tested it when we had like 2 or 3 viewers showing, and yet there were 8 or 10 at least that we're talking about how are only 2 or 3 showing.
The comments would have and maybe Lisa's right. It just stops. It makes it look like it's not popular all of a sudden or something.
I'll have 300 people, 400 people on my stream, or even like 500 or 600 on a live stream, and when it ends, I'll have like 120 views.
Yeah,
it's always the same.
Part of that's the payout to you, and the other part is shadow banning to get other people to not watch it.
And anywhere it is payout related, they've asked the same thing about Reddit, where they certain political subreddits would get I don't know what you call it. They'd be discounted. That it was pretty aware that, well, for one thing, they were selling ads based upon millions of subscribers, but when they showed the number of subscribers anywhere in any other reports, it was in the hundreds of thousands. There's always that type of thing. So it ends up as fraud, frankly, because they're selling ads for something they're claiming isn't true. It's crazy.
And if you want to people have been trained somehow to look at how many views a video gets to determine if that's something that's worth watching. I still hear people say that. It's like, there's 5 videos on this thing. Whichever one has the most views, that's the one, right?
Right.
And so you can affect where people spend their time based on representing it in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. Just like you can memory hole something by going back and fact checking it, make the fact checks the top result, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what else we got question wise? What's on the list here? Because that was one of mine. I don't even know if it should count. So let's get to something that's from the community. I am. Awesome. Spooky concept for some. What if Craig Wright is the real Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin? Or Bitcoin was created by the CIA or other government intelligence agencies. And I'll add an additional what if both are true?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Does it matter?
It shouldn't matter.
Does it matter who made the gun? If it works, it's whose hands it's in, right? It's
what if it's a massive test? What if it was a massive test? What if it was the whole reason that it was all meant to be anonymous? It was like, look, let's just test it. Let's just see how the people respond. And then, because sometimes I do think about this, and I think, there's me championing Bitcoin, talking about it for the last sort of 7 years online, and then thinking, actually having that seed of doubt, thinking, wait a minute, is this a trap?
Can I say something? Can I add? I mean, here's what, because I actually would put money on. I think that it is compromised. That all those cryptographic algorithms that we might communicate with and or do business in Bitcoin with are compromised. And here's why. You imagine before the run up of this Ukrainian conflict, if the Russians would have bought a over the counter a massive amount of Bitcoin and or other cryptos, and then when this thing happens, say the only way you can buy this is with this, and their own value of their what they're actually storing instead of gold would be radically higher, and they didn't do that. And
there's rumors that the NSA did.
But see, that's the thing. If they control it, it actually makes really good sense, because if it becomes valuable enough for nation states to hold some reserves in it, then you've got them by the neck. And they don't even know you have it.
In fairness, what if they did very secretly?
Oh, they might. Well, if the thing is, it's a different effect. It didn't go up in price when it should have. If they would have legitimately, I think the reason that the way they didn't is because they didn't make a deal about it. If they, I think they have said they have.
Deal for an appropriate
so recently,
time.
somebody was
maybe
like a month ago we bought.
That's totally maybe, but that's what I'm saying. Let's say they did. Would it not make sense for U.S. or some other nation state to have the keys in their hands to completely
cripple
that plan?
If they're Satoshi, then they have those first, not pre-mined, but that.
Yeah, they can do something with that alone.
They can't move those is the thing. The other thing of it too is we know the code is open source. People have been over it with a fine-tooth comb, right? By now, you would have seen some developer come out and point out the fact that this was systemically unsound because of this and this and this that I found in the code base.
Well, there has been at least, like, I watched one talk at DEF CON about, and it wasn't about Bitcoin at all. It was about SHA-256, I think. And the title was like, everybody moved to 512, 256 is dead. And it was some Chinese researcher had found a collision in 256 and reported on it. And that kind of like didn't get a whole lot of press, and it didn't really go anywhere. But the algorithm itself, the part that is really freaking complicated, even for smart people to understand, that only a handful of people really have a grasp of, that's where I think, Joe, you've talked about before, like that's where the weakness really could be.
That's where the danger is.
Yeah. Well, there's standards. Those curves are from NIST standards. And and I'm no cryptographic expert, okay? But I've heard enough of them say that there's a lot of unknowns there. So
what's happening now?
Unknowns come from the P versus NP argument, right? Like which side of that?
I think we all can agree that probably the government has technology, any powerful technology, a few years before it's available to the public. And if that's what you believe, as I do, right now they are telling the public we are a few years away from quantum computers, which means the government has access to functional quantum computing right now. Those can break into any cryptocurrency that's out right now. I mean, it's able to crack it, but no more than 3 days. Any coin, and it's done.
I know that I've heard people who do specialize in quantum encryption algorithms and stuff do believe that, right? Like I don't know what they know, but I know that they believe what you
elliptic curve cryptography could fix it.
It's a patch. All these coins can be upgraded fairly easily. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
None have, but it can.
I do sort of see, and I'm wearing the Bitcoin shirt over here, but I do sort of see Bitcoin as a proof of concept. And I think I see a lot of things as Bitcoin that maybe a lot of maximalists wouldn't consider Bitcoin. But there's a lot of value in Bitcoin, even as a proof of concept, to prove, like, if it's not, as the question suggests, maybe it's a CIA or a government intelligence agency. If it's not that, then it is meant to prove that this can work, and to give the idea to everyone who wants to work on that, right?
I think, like Lisa said, it doesn't really matter if it was started by them, because, well, not Craig Wright, because it's like who it's in the hands of and how it's used, because it's open source and all that. The Craig Wright thing, Bitcoin maximalists are so insane that I think that would be like more of a big deal. It's kind of like Amber Heard. Like no matter how much I've loved Aquaman, which was tough growing up because everybody made fun of that. But before it was, Momoa was it was huge, and even I would think about watching the new one if she was in it. It's that the Amber Heard phenomenon. It's like you just don't like her so much that even if she's in something that you really are excited about or love,
people are kind of like that.
And if Craig Wright was, he's such it's like, ugh.
I don't really want to know who Satoshi was personally, but the plausibility of the government creating Bitcoin. The government created Tor, the Tor network, right? And it was a tool that was needed.
And GPS.
But you think of Tor as a way to evade censorship and prying eyes and things like that. That came directly from the Naval Research Laboratory. And the reason that it was open source, as I understand it, is because it only works if there's mass adoption. It only provides a way to hide, behind enemy lines and send messages back without being tracked, without the opposing nation state knowing where your asset is and what they're saying. If a lot of people are using it, that you can hide in the weeds like that. Because if only a few people are using it, it's pretty easy to see, there's network traffic coming from here, and we can ping it from a million different locations where the network traffic consolidates, and that's where they are. So the government does make things that people use.
But see, that's exactly the thing, though. About Tor that they already had the answer. What happens if this gets out of control? They before they released it, they already knew what options they had to break.
They still can't totally do it, right? It's imperfect, but they can get a consensus of exit nodes and do traffic.
It's good enough that even the DEA can do it. I mean, if it's easy enough for the DEA to do it and the FBI, then I guarantee to you that NSA would know how to do it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying it's too expensive for them to go and unmask everyday users. It's like they're only after certain specific targets with what they can do to unmask on Tor.
If you're targeted, you're going to be found out just because you're using Tor.
If you're targeted,
the only incentive. This is something that if you listen to what is his name? One of the guys that built the majority of LokiNet for the Oxen project. There's a video of him talking about his rationale behind his design choices and their implementation of basically LokiNet is, if you don't know what it is, it's Tor, but it is an incentivized blockchain rewarded Tor network.
Where you can get your stake slashed for being a corrupt node.
One of the most interesting things that he says there is that Tor, one of the main problems fundamentally with Tor is that not only is there no incentive for you to be a good node on the network, it's all just voluntary. The only incentive that does exist is to be a bad actor, because you have the incentive of you can de-anonymize people and you can probably sell that, or you can probably use that in some bad way. So you have a network that's run by volunteers where the only incentive is to be a bad actor.
Right.
And
whereas
so trying to do is add
then with guns show up, right?
You're
a bad exit node all of a sudden because there's no incentive for you to resist it, right?
Right. Yep.
So
that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
One more thought on the who is Satoshi? Is that just throw this one out there? Probably Hal Finney, my guess. Anybody else disagree?
I like Nick Szabo because he follows me on Twitter. That's so.
Oh, cool.
I think last week we said it was Cheney, right?
I always think I've always thought Jeff Garzik is part of it, or just his.
I don't. You know what? I'm going to tell you my best evidence that it isn't Garzik. I've been on a conference call with him, and he talked about the need for inflation. And I was very confused because I understand like a scaled, like an initial inflation with a scale back, but it was an interesting economic perspective on something I didn't expect from him. So that's why I don't think it's him.
Maybe it's just.
But he's an awesome guy. He's amazing. So don't get me wrong. He's amazing and he's awesome. And by the way, I took a job with Block back then because I got to work for him, because he is the only person on earth that either worked with and or for, depending on how you look at it, both Satoshi and Linus Torvalds, right?
Oh wow.
So you had those two, like,
Interesting.
it's like that's like a demigod, right?
Well, he does so
It also
much,
puts him
and he
in
doesn't
proximity
ever
to it
talk
enough to
about
make
it.
him a
He
viral
doesn't put
Yeah,
it out
he's-
there. He's
he's
always
amazing.
behind the scenes doing stuff.
Yeah, and he's a super nice. I mean, he's in it for the right reasons, which is so rare these days.
You mean Linus? Torvalds, you mean?
No.
He's not a nice person.
Garzik.
He's hilarious.
Garzik.
Very smart, but
I think Garzik.
gotcha.
Yeah,
I've
he
never
could
met,
actually be a Satoshi
Linus,
candidate
right.
too, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The fact that he never talks about it is also suspicious.
That's a good point. It should be in the kernel. I don't know why. Anyway.
all right. So what do we got? We got Shrek 2 on DVD, who asks, this is my favorite question: smoking massive amounts of cannabis and making major monumental moves in crypto, is it possible or a stoner's pipe dream?
Totally possible.
I mean, it's possible. You can make moves.
Well,
I don't think the
can
question is that going to work out for you. Is it possible to smoke massive amounts of cannabis and make major monumental moves in crypto? Yeah, that's probably when you're going to make moves, because you're too
I would agree.
low, and you're just going to hit the button, and you're going to be the person who's either
If it
the
makes you
chat.
widely
I
distributed,
think actually,
then yes, it actually could.
I think actually, and this is historically, I think true, the people who didn't trade tend to make more money. So if you just buy and it's and you're happy with that, I think those are more likely to make good moves.
Yep.
I think even if you are
Moves are
trading,
to
a little
be
bit of the
years
paranoia
into the
that comes
future
with it
still.
might help.
Yep. That's true. That's true. The paranoia might help. Years
Yeah,
into the future, though, especially
I don't
if
know
you
where to
forget
go with this
to bought
question.
stuff because you were high, you might end up doing yourself a favor.
Yeah. Well, since we're doing like the scary stories and stuff, how does this apply to spookiness? How does this apply to, like, yeah, maybe that's where it's at. Don't necessarily get high and making big financial moves, because if you do, it could end up very bad for you. Now, you might get lucky, but that's gambling. You want a clear mind when you're making
That's
financial
great
decisions.
Not financial advice.
I can tell you from experience that can work out poorly for you. You know, I've had a lot of really great ideas and decided to just run with it. Where in hindsight, maybe I should have put some more sober thought to that.
The real hardcore investing needs to be done on LSD.
Well, I thought you guys would at least take the, what strain and or sativa or indica is going to be better for clarity on such a decision. But
yeah, I mean, if you
definitely sativa.
I would disagree. I would say indica.
You could just go to sleep.
Exactly. You're less likely to be like trigger happy.
there you go. That's probably
slow you down a little bit. That kind of thing. No, I mean, like,
absinthe. That's the person.
Drugs and finance has definitely got a historically. There's a relationship there. Wall Street's really fucking high on drugs. Like even like I was looking at memes and stuff yesterday about there's this awesome fad of not drinking heavily all the time, which is, I think, great for people's health. But there's some memes about that, about like Silicon Valley bros that are strung out on Adderall all day, but they're talking about how they're like making healthy decisions by drinking less. With like, no drinks for me, only drugs, please. So
microdosing. I've heard that they do there as well.
Yeah, microdosing. Interestingly enough, the invention of LSD and the massive build out of like modern technology and computers and stuff like that, there's some timeline similarities there. You know what I mean?
Well, and I was told that if you microdose correctly, you actually don't have the.
That's true. That's
what you see is energy, though.
Because it brings you to a
increased
homeostasis,
energy and
right.
It's like anything where you can drink way too much caffeine. You can drink 2 pots of coffee in 30 minutes.
Sure.
And you're going to have some negative physical effects, and you're going to be like really strung out and not not really happy, not feeling good. It's probably not going to be healthy. The thing with LSD, and I'm not a doctor, and this isn't advice, I just happen to have experience with LSD, and I will tell you about my personal experience, is that you're talking micrograms. You're talking like literally
it's very tiny.
Micrograms is such a small amount of any like substance. To think about how much of an effect, like 100 micrograms is
a big dose.
Is not a big dose, but it is, I would say most people would consider it a dose, right? When you talk about microdosing, you're talking like 10, right? Like to the point where you can't even measure that very accurately. And this is where the two places, this is not supposed to be what the show's about. I don't know. The two places people get in trouble though is like they're buying something that they think is one thing, but they don't know for sure. Not even the person selling it knows for sure, because it's illegal to regulate it and properly label it and make sure that it's okay. It's illegal to have it openly,
tested and
stuff
yeah.
like that. So,
wasn't there like a decade of really good research when it first got discovered?
There was.
Between the 50s and the 60s, and it was amazing.
And headway being made with mental health and depression and anxiety and alcoholism and things like that. And doctors were like, "Holy shit, this could be a miracle drug."
There's a new
figure out how to dose it properly.
resurgence
And then
of that, though, too.
that was shut off. No, you're not allowed to research it anymore. Yeah, it is
We
research.
do have research in ketamine, which is good.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And then-
I mean, you could go with that angle on it. What's the reason? This is just me trying to make to corner it back into the spooky side. What's the reason for that? Is there some level of spiritual awakening or understanding that people will get that they are afraid of? That's
Maybe
the type of stuff that's kind of crazy.
Maybe.
I can actually weigh in on that.
Yeah, I was thinking Keith has talked to me about this.
Yeah, I had a breakthrough on ayahuasca in December.
Yes.
Life changing.
That's DMT, right?
Yeah. Life changing. And I'd been drawn to kind of shrooms beforehand. I started kind of dabbling with shrooms, and I was chatting to a guy, and I learned how to cook my own ayahuasca. I've actually got a box full of it here. I buy it in packets now.
Right on.
Get it up. And I've also got some San Pedro. Like this is the not so strong cousin of peyote, right?
Those are easy to grow, but a pain in the ass to do anything with. I've tried.
Pressure
wanna
cooker
try
will save
DMT,
you a lot of
so
time.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't do that. Yeah.
But and one of the reasons for my anti-war rant, actually, sorry, and apologies for being so passionate, was I was shown a lot of stuff when I broke through, and one of them was like the problem with humanity, and it was like I was shown like fucking people killing each other like in the name of war. And I just felt this overwhelming sadness, but I just been given this amazing feeling of bliss. Like it was unbelievable, man. I was just sitting in my living room, started to get like a real heavy trip, right? And then all of a sudden, just bam, I am somewhere else, man. I am just somewhere else. And there's this massive, like golden kind of Christmas tree structure in front of me, which I later learned after reading a book by Joe Dispenza, that what I must have seen was the pineal gland. And it showed me everything that the universe intends for Earth and us, right? And we get it wrong so many times, right? So many times. But all I have done since then, I mean, the first thing I did is I turned off all social media, which for somebody that works on social media, that financially hurt me, right? I couldn't go on social media again. I turned off the television for I'm not joking, 6-7 months. And I just really, really started focusing on listening to myself. I mean, I also used to be like 300 pounds at the beginning of the year, by the way. And then I fucking just everything after this experience, everything changed energetically, everything changed. All the trauma in my life from, existing on this planet and being bombarded with all the shit that we're always bombarded with. A lot of people, we've got a lot of phrases in this world that we grow up with, things like you are what you eat, that it's not quite true. It's you are what you consume. So it's not just your food, it's what you watch. It's the sounds around you. It's the hidden radiation. It's the microwave radiation. It's all this kind of stuff that just bombards around you. But after this particular breakthrough, let me just quickly summarize, and I'll stop talking. But after this particular breakthrough, what I really now that we waste our time with, and I'm really sad to say that I think Bitcoin is one of those things, because I don't think we need money really personally anymore, which is a real problem with my particular internet presence.
No, I think money enslaves us, and we choose 100%. It.
But I love the message of decentralization. That's like modern day anarchy, right? It's just in a good way. Just please, let's go back to being decentralized. Please, that's what draws me to Bitcoin, I think.
And this is I'm glad you shared that. I don't have experience with like DMT. but I have thought about what you were talking about, where from a certain perspective among certain people, the idea that people will start thinking independently all of a sudden, that something will allow them, something exists that allows people to question everything confidently and think for themselves specifically.
Yeah.
Like
now,
that,
how about
I feel like it's
this?
happening now. I really do.
You know what people
it's
say
now.
when they're talking about AI? When people say about AI, they say, "Oh, one day, what if AI becomes self-aware?" I think the real question is, what happens when we all become self-aware?
Yeah. What
that's
if
Because
awesome.
I'm
what
9
if
months
we are
into it,
AI?
man,
That's
and
the thing,
I see the world in a very different way. And
I think Zara from chat
game-changing.
makes a very good point, and I do want to be careful about, like, I'm not. So Zara says you don't need psychedelics to unlock the power of the mind.
Absolutely, you don't.
And suggests that maybe it could be a shorter path for you, and that's, everyone's different, and some people just don't like that, and they don't, fine, don't.
You can get it
need
for
it.
meditation. If you Google how to activate Christ consciousness, it's exactly that. So near-death experiences, ayahuasca experiences, meditative breakthroughs, kundalini breakthroughs, all the same thing. It's all activating the same level of consciousness that Jesus, some dude on the planet, once achieved in his lifetime, and he wanted to say, "Hey, there's another layer to this. There's another layer to this," and it's
right.
It will really be, But yeah, meditation is the way forward. Get the book "Becoming Supernatural" by Joe Dispenza. It's all in there.
Well,
Game
the
changing.
truth is, we have access to this. We all have access to this right now.
100%.
At the moment, today,
without any. Where you're sitting at this very moment as you hear this, you already have the capacity. The question is,
maybe not tomorrow.
We're too busy looking at other things, looking at the external.
Right. Do you have the wherewithal to know how to use the muscle, to remember how to use the muscle? That's really the question.
Yeah, and where we are today with the focus on it, really, I feel like it is. This is a quote from Open Source Money, which we watched recently. That's out on. You can just see it on YouTube now. It's free to watch. But someone in that documentary said this is a war between centralization and decentralization. And when you centralize access to information, you can very easily, and then you tie money to that. You tie people's ability to feed their family to that. That's where the dark side is, right? That's where you can turn off people's ability to eat if they just try to access wrong information, right?
Or if they fail to conform in any way, really.
That also is a big thing about the water meters that I was talking about, scares, because people can't live without water, and there's clean water. It used to just be those countries, that didn't have it. Now, I mean, look at Detroit. Look at so many places in our own country. Texas, we have like crap water. It's not like Detroit, but it's not great.
I think all commercial water's not real water, mate. I don't think any of us have experienced real water.
I had to put in.
I remember growing up in Europe, dude.
Wells in Western
go
Kansas.
hiking, and if there's a stream, you could just drink water out of it.
Yeah, that's how I grew up in Florida. Like, we have a well that just there's an aquifer down there.
To think about
so
that
it's
now,
like
no way.
Artisanal.
I remember
out of the
first time
well.
I ever, I can't remember why, but we were at some farm of some relative, and there was a windmill out there, and my dad, so let's go over there, and it was pumping up water, and that water was so freaking cold and tasted so different and so amazing. I still remember it.
I remember my grandparents. One of the things, I would go over there and fill up a big jug of water from their fridge, because they lived on top of spring water, and their well went into the aquifer. You know what I mean? And it just was an amazingly different water. Today, I'm in, I'm on city water in Gainesville here, and I can smell my ice. I can smell a chemical smell from the ice. So I have to get a reverse osmosis filter just to make my ice smell better.
Isn't it the state now that a lot of water is so bad that it's been processed so much that it actually takes minerals from our body rather than giving minerals to our body? So a lot of the
fluoride.
we operate suboptimally, but
I
we're
read
drinking
about
a lot of this processed water. But apparently alkaline water, I'm not sure what level of alkalinity is acceptable. But that shit, that heals. I mean, I listened to this woman on it was on BitChute during the pandemic, and she was talking about discovering alkaline water and started giving it to her friends and family, and old injuries like glass coming out of. She'd been in a car accident like 16 years before, started drinking this alkaline water, and literally glass splinters within like 48 hours were leaving her body. Her father had drunk some of this alkaline water.
Yeah, you have to be really careful because there is like a balance or whatever.
Yeah, like you too much, it's acid, right? You know, it's no good.
Too much is the opposite of acid, right? It's base.
Oh yeah.
I had a biology teacher once that told me that if you just drink a lot of water and keep your body pH, at a certain pH, that you'll virtually never get sick because shit can't live in that except stuff that's supposed to be in your body. And that was a very simplified, probably version of maybe that's something, I'm speculating, but maybe it has something to do with that, where maybe we're too much of a bunch of basic bitches. We need some alkaline. Or wait, is alkaline base?
No, acidic.
Yeah. So alkaline water.
Sorry, I'm the chemist here. I'm going like
alkaline is base.
Something that I
adding lemon to your alkaline water is probably not
something
that
you just said is that about being decentralized. I've noticed there's so many more people like Russell Brand, Joe Rogan, a lot of that people listen to are using the word decentralized, and people are understanding the evils of centralization. And it didn't have to do with crypto, but it's just they're seeing it, the bigger picture of how any kind of centralized.
Well, maybe that's how the next bull market starts. Not wishing to talk about number go up, but maybe it will be when people get more interested in decentralization.
Yeah,
and most of the content they will come across will be about Bitcoin. Because
I think that's key. Because that gives so you can get excited about the number that's going up while the number is going up, but as soon as it stumbles, you're not excited and it sucks now, right? But if you get excited about the reasons for it to exist and the implications that it has for human history,
the power,
like going forward from here, the implications that it has is like, this is the starting point for something that could be, it could save us. It could literally save the human race.
Frankly, that's the one, I think the biggest misfortune of having it attached to something like money, even though it's probably the most important thing to have it attached to first, was that it becomes less of a philosophical revolution than it could be. I mean, it should, this should affect economics. It should affect, the power of people to spend money where they want. But you think about what's missing there is all of the rest of it that if you aren't living in a place that has an uncorrupted Bill of Rights, which even we don't, then it becomes far more powerful philosophically and historically if you think about the larger effect. But the problem is nobody's building any of that stuff because we're all just chasing numbers.
I think what we need to do is we need to look around real carefully at what the world has become since we started building on this, and we need to not necessarily discount the notion that a lot of the changes, that a lot of the shifts we've seen, a lot of the battles we've started to see fought rather than left in the subtext of culture, right? All of these things may in fact have been initialized by the slow build of blockchains and decentralized systems. We could be watching it happen right now and just too cynical to realize it. Which I think there's an element of that we have to be on guard for, about not losing our.
Yeah, when you look back on a timeline, it's easy to look back on a timeline and be like, oh yeah, between these years, that's actually a pretty rapid development that exploded. But when you're in that timeline, it feels like a crawl. It feels like it's going so fucking excruciatingly slow.
I just want to point out for anyone that still likes numbers going up and making a profit, just to do a little exercise right now in this bear market and count the amount of times you could have sold Bitcoin for 20,000 and rebought at 19. Just count the amount of times you could have done that since the bear market happened and see how much profit you would have had.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not that bad right now, guys.
Great point.
Volatility. Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I never really bought that argument. Oh, it's too volatile. Nobody will want that. Because like I'm not a day trader or anything. I don't trade for shit. But I do see if you're gonna do that and make money, that's where you need it to be. Yeah.
Volatility with a bottom and a top defined like they are now is just amazing. It is just insane.
Perfect. Well, perfect segue into the last question too.
On top of this too, real fast, just have to say this one. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Let's just go on. Let's go on. I'll set it aside.
Yeah. So, computer love, and we can just do a rapid fire. We can go ahead and wrap this up because we're at time also on the show. So let's do kind of a rapid fire. Go down the list. Halloween. Not financial advice, but computer love asks, pump or dump the price? What's Halloween going to do? Because people do love to tie holidays and moon phases and events to whether the price goes up or down. And if enough people do that together, it happens, right? So what do you think? Halloween, is it going to pump or dump the price? What's going to happen after Halloween or during Halloween?
I can go first.
Okay, go first.
Small pump, because at least some people probably have the same idea I do, and they're giving out NFTs for Halloween when people come trick or treating.
Yeah, got to do something with them. Russ, what do you think? Halloween, are we in for a pump or a dump this Halloween?
I can't come up with any correlation between that holiday and crypto, man. I have no idea. Let's go with pump.
Okay, yeah. What did Elon say? I may pump, but I never dump. Yeah, let's go with pump. Who else wants to make a call?
I'm gonna say probably unrelated to the season of Halloween, but possibly in sync with the season of Halloween. For other world events, we will dump in particular, because I just don't see good things coming in the next month in the world, right?
You think people are going to need local currency more, and that's kind of a driving force?
Yeah, or they'll get scared, or more likely the bots will manipulate the markets to dump for whatever the heck reason. Who knows why they do what they do.
Well, they know people are selling. They know retailers selling to buy Christmas presents, right? So they always dump it at Christmas.
That's true.
2017.
And what happens before a large scale war with we've not seen a large scale war since crypto is founded. What would, if World War II were months or within a year from starting, what would crypto do had it existed at that time? I think that's the situation we're in right now.
Okay, I think in fairness, I think we're probably closer to World War III than World War II.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that you map it to the same time. You think about the effects. If I saw the stuff happening in Europe at that time, and Bitcoin were, I guess you could probably map it to what happened to gold and silver at the time. But is it too manipulated? Because I think a lot of
Hitler didn't have nukes, man.
Yeah. Well, you could just ask the Vatican. They'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. How much does the Vatican hold, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they hold something. They're kind of in everything, right?
Well, I think it's going to pump, but like Joe said, I think we're in for some dumps.
Yeah, keeping it spooky. There's
definitely be really scary if it dumps. Because
we're like Cuban Missile Crisis, close to automation accidentally ending the world right now. So there's that.
Keeping it spooky.
We should probably lose too much sight of that.
You think so too, Lisa?
Keeping it spooky. There's a new moon eclipse on the 25th.
Ooh.
So keeping it spooky, dump.
I don't know. There's a lot of truth coming out now, though, about how we've pushed, how Russia's not, just a complete asshole. They really were pushed by NATO, by the United States, by Europe, breaking their word since the end of World War II. And NATO keeping expanding till it was at their door. And I brought this up since the beginning.
Yeah,
when they were going to come to Cuba, we were going to kill your family. We were going to have nuclear war. Everybody knows how close we came. All the stuff has been declassified. We were on the brink. And we didn't invade Cuba. We didn't invade anyone. We just said, okay, we're going to,
hit the button.
Going to end it. And Russia had that choice. They could say, hey, you're either going to stop or we're going to end the world. Or they just.
But even that, Sean, was all theater, because we had the blockade. They took the missiles out, quote unquote, and within weeks they were back in there, and we knew they were back in there, but we'd had to stand off, and we won in the media of the day. That was even a full theater. So Anyway,
now it's not. They've been on high alert since March.
You think? No, I think all of this is theater. I think they're portraying both sides.
Could launch the shit for them. All they'd have to do is not push the stop button.
Well, this Sergey fellow does make me nervous. I'm not an expert on Russian-U.S. relations, but I did do a tour with Russia, actually, with a bunch of their sailors. We mostly drank a lot in Norway together just to prove that we could outdrink each other. Taught them how to play beer pong and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. They're capable. They're absolutely capable.
I don't know why that's so funny.
It was funny for us to live through
Speaking
it.
of Russian,
I was just writing about it this morning on Den. Somebody, if you go look in the history layer on Den, and I'll talk our way out of the show and cap it off.
That actually just sounds like a Reagan era feel good movie setup.
Yeah. But I just wrote a story about it.
Because later on, you guys would by the end of the movie, you would be on two different ships in battle, and that would be the whole thing. But because you knew Sergey from the beer pong, he made some beer pong reference. That's how the movie ends. Like, the beer pong saves the world.
Oh yeah,
alternate ending to Red Dawn.
Thank God for beer pong.
See, I should probably just be writing movies. I should just leave crypto.
Yeah. I just wrote a story about this morning though about my experience. Somebody had asked me about it, and it's on there. So check out the history layer over on Den. I think for my prediction for Halloween, I think we're going to start seeing. I could be wrong, but I think we're going to start seeing number go up. I think I've seen and heard so many people that were only in it to make a quick buck talk about crypto as being something that's in hindsight now. Like, man, crypto, that was such a scam, wasn't it? In past tense.
Wow.
Like that kind of thing. Man, that was such a scam, wasn't it? So they're out. they're out. And now like we can get on with it. So, good riddance. Let's get on with it. The number will go up as soon as we start using it for what it was created for,
Yes.
And you don't need an exchange to use it. And you don't need an exchange to exchange it. Atomic swaps still work. I know they're not as
just handshake somebody as you send it to them from your wallet.
They're not as sexy as they used to be. It used to be a lot of hype around atomic swaps, but it's a lot sexier now that you can swap Bitcoin for Monero directly on chain between two parties with no third party intermediary, right? So the shit still works. Shout out to Exodus Wallet who makes that super simple.
That's
nice.
awesome.
So anyway, use it for what it's supposed to be used for by design, and then naturally the number will go up. That kind of thing. So let's go around.
Keith hasn't weighed in on his.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got a full house. I didn't mean to skip somebody. What do you think? Let's get a prediction on Halloween from Keith.
No, I mean I think it's going to bleed out a little bit. I mean, from a technical perspective, we've bottomed, but how long will that bottom hold? So either this is the bottom or it isn't, right? And I genuinely, just from experience, Christmas is always a terrible time. The run up to Christmas, because I always feel the bleed of going, why didn't I take more profit in the summer? Because I've got to buy the kids presents now, right? And I think we'll definitely see a repeat of that, even if it's the bots attacking the price, as they know retail are flocking to sell it. I think number go up in January. I'm basing that purely on a tarot reading my wife had, by the way. Apparently number go up in January.
I like the point about Christmas time though, because that is a globally, it's like a money spending season, right? I know I'm traveling, spending too much money. I'm going to be in Germany and in Prague over Christmas and New Year's. So I'll report back.
Prague is wicked at Christmas, by the way. It is amazing.
I've been there before. It's my first time there. I go to Germany.
My ex-wife a week after going to Prague, like 20 years ago.
Far out.
I've never been there either, dude.
Maybe you can give me some suggestions. Cool. But yeah, so that's all the questions, and we're at slightly over time. I think I missed my little bonus for keeping it tight. But let's go around the round table, and talk about where people can follow you, can see you, and you can talk about whatever you want on the way out here. We'll start with, how about Ross, if that's okay? Can we start with you and talk a little bit about what you got going on?
I don't know what we're working on right now, actually. I know we just published Grayscale is suing the SEC officially now for them denying their Bitcoin ETF.
Okay.
some balls on them, man.
I saw something
so that's the
small
story
about
on
that. I'll read about it. Yeah.
the homepage. And I haven't gotten a chance to check out the story myself yet. So that's up on our homepage though. And then follow us: Apple News, Google News, and Binance News Global Crypto Press.
Awesome. Thank you. Sean, how about yourself, sir?
You can follow me, Sean, on Twitters and YouTubes and all that. I have an interview with Janice McAfee coming out. Dude, I've had it ready for like a week and I haven't put it out because I'm just working on this big tribute to John, which I went through like a lot of our conversations and interviews, and there's so much that really has kind of depressed me a little bit, about him being gone. I put out a couple of shorts, but I'm going to put that out like this week. Both of those before probably, today, tomorrow, before Sunday. I did want to say one thing. If you know about Alex Jones, he just lost the keys. He has to pay like $1 billion to the families from Sandy Hook. Just pay $965 million to like 9 people.
I did see that.
Whatever you want to say about him and whether that's whatever. But Purdue Pharma, because of the OxyContin case of all the people that have been hurt by that, they had to pay out $634.
Right.
Versus to all of those people versus 965 to like 6 or 9 people.
How much did Goldman Sachs have to pay for the financial crisis?
You can see how much.
Great
Doing
point,
a really
Sean.
bad job at making the conspiracy theorists look crazy on this one, you guys. Like, you look so sane right now. I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking.
That's a great point, Sean. I'm glad you brought it up. Hey, Greg, how about yourself? Where can people follow you, and what are you doing? You talked a little bit about Rivet.
You can find me at Design Hair, any place where you find that as a search term, because I don't have any impersonators yet, and everywhere that is somewhere that's actually me so far. The thing that we're up to right now, like I said, is getting ready to really start talking about how we're going to build a decentralized infrastructure that will enable people to build decentralized applications that self-pay for their own infrastructure. So you could have a fire and forget thing that exists in decentralized space, and it will just run if people use it. And if they don't, then it will just go dormant. It'll be like a coin-operated machine. And you'll be able to build those with the infrastructure decentralization system that we're proposing. So that's going to be coming very, very soon. We'll have a white paper out coming weeks, and then moving on from there. So
fantastic.
Yep,
as a fan of Gibson and cyberpunk fiction and stuff like that, I love the idea of a deployable asset that just lives on its own and can pay for its own infrastructure. Awesome work. Follow Design Heretic for more of that. Lisa, how about yourself?
Well, we've got the Mighty Layer up and going, and every Friday we give out lot for participation on the happy hour show. So that's been kicking along. So you guys be sure to join the Mighty Layer and comment. And I do like a TV guide kind of thing for each week. A little behind this week, but I will get caught up. And I have a interview that just came out on the Very DAO channel for the Veritasium DAO group with Reggie Middleton that I'm pretty damn proud of. I would love for everybody to go check out and share, please. And that may have something to do with my Google AdSense getting swatted last night.
Interesting.
And I don't know, maybe not. But I will stay on the who tubes as long as I can and go everywhere else between now and then. So keep posting, keep creating content, keep creating conversation for freedom and free speech.
Well, thank you for what you do. That gives me 2 interviews to look forward to: Middleton and the McAfee interview with Sean. So thank you both. Keith, thanks for joining us today. Loved having you on the show. For people that maybe watch this show but not what you already have on your own channels, where can people follow you and watch you and things like that?
Yeah, well, as I've taken a hiatus after my awakening, I don't really upload very often, but you can find me at youtube.com/Keith Waring Official and youtube.com/Keith's Crypto Trades, and also keithwaring.com, all of which is currently not being used very much, but I will be talking about something soon. As soon as the universe tells me what to fucking talk about.
Well, you did a pretty good
You gotta
job
keep
of
coming back
explaining
here,
why,
man.
so that's great. Yeah,
Awesome.
I think
Thanks.
that you'll come back in force, and you're welcome back here. Absolutely, anytime you want to come back. We do this every Thursday.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Joe Roach, who's been hiding in the shadows during the spooky episode today, audio only, but thanks for being able to join us. Even though
Sorry, there was a call trying to come in right as you called me. No, I would say Keith was great on here, so thanks for being on. That was awesome. I think
thanks, dude.
I think the fit in current events that is kind of most disturbing to me anyway is the attack on freedom of speech. I mean, you could look at the Alex Jones stuff, you could look at the Kanye West stuff, or that you could look at the banks canceled them now, and I don't know, everywhere else. We've been hit. I've had bank accounts canceled because
they swatted cat turd too.
See, it's craziness, and I think, by the way, blockchain. I mean, to bring it to what this show was originally, we started what was a meetup group called Blockchain Seattle to announce the Dragon Chain project, because we didn't have how do you say this, more of a what's the word for a religion that is more open. It's like there was an Ethereum group. There were project meetup groups, right? Bitcoin, but there wasn't a generic. You can talk about anything blockchain, crypto, any of that stuff, and it grew really fast into this. But a lot of what we originally talked about were the core things, because I tend to think that creative people, when they understand all of the abstract capabilities, that they can envision things that you wouldn't expect. And history is probably the biggest one. And my personal opinion, as crazy as it is that yes, the bankers hate Bitcoin. Yes, the VCs hate Ethereum. But generally, the powers that be hate the fact that with blockchain, you can mark and prove history. It cannot be altered. You can't change the definition of that word. You can't change what that article said at that time if you have a sufficient measurable proof. So anyway, I'm doing more of that this week.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, implications for recorded history was one of our past episodes. Maybe go dig that one up as well, because that's exactly on that topic, and I believe that too. As for me, you can follow me wherever you see @distant. Den.Social is kind of my playground. So go check out the history layer over there. If you more recently have joined Den, just know that you have to go search in the list of layers to subscribe to stuff before you see it show up in your feeds. So go check that stuff out. Free to join. All you need is an email address. There's no fuckery. It is what it is. No KYC, just a behavioral system that is on blockchain that rewards you for doing the types of things that is needed, like evaluating content and voting and posting and replying and things like that. Pretty straightforward. So check out Den.Social. And next week we have every Thursday we do this, and we have a different topic every week. And next week is personalized identity on blockchain. So that'll be
contentious one.
Yeah. I think one of the spookiest things to round out the show is what you just said. And the whole reason we had the show and everything is because of something Roger Ver said to me, which he just it was like off the cuff, but I literally was like getting punched in the face. He said, well, there really hasn't been provable true history throughout mankind's history until the invention of blockchain.
Exactly.
It could always be rewritten by whoever was in power, and with block, and that is horrifying.
Yeah,
to think of that, because you don't know. You just don't know if everything you've been told, or everything things that you could, the foundation of things that your principles and all could all be just made up. Until blockchain came about, to where nobody can change it.
But even, not to be the downer, but the spooky part is, even with blockchain, there's still a human entering that information, right?
Yeah, but it has to be verified, and then someone else could enter. That's not true. Here's proof.
And you definitely reduce the window of opportunity to fake a piece of data, right?
And that's why if you take more pieces of data, if you don't just say here's what happened, but if you have all of the components that led to what happened, it becomes extremely expensive to fake it, or especially if you put identities on and everything else.
Yeah.
Meta just came out with their thing, and one of the things that they're doing, which the same day that they did, they also then the yacht apes got swatted for their thing. And yes, I'm going to keep using the term swatted because that's what it feels like. And so but the Meta thing, one of the things that they're doing is going back and they're taking crime scenes and different things, and they specifically mentioned the Biggie, whatever his name is, that got shot. That's one of the first things that they have on there where you can go in and be in like the metaverse and be at the shooting and see the proof for yourself.
To see someone's representation of what happened. And then you feel like you've seen it firsthand. So you know for sure that's what happened, right?
So you experienced it.
Interesting. I hadn't heard of that. That's wild.
Terrifying.
One of our own was actually swatted, him and his family. He asked me not to tell anybody, so I'm not gonna say who it was. But yeah, it was pretty freaky and scary.
All right. Well, that was also a good preview for next week too, as far as what Joe just said about different points of data, going into the same data, like identity, things like that. So share this episode. If you caught the intro, we gave out rewards based on what the previous viewership was on the episode. So the more you share it, the more lot our hosts and topic contributors will get. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week for World Blockchain Roundtable.
Hit the alert bell too.
Peace.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.